This video is sponsored by Brilliantorg. Today, we're gonna take a look at 10 more countries which don't exist anymore. Now, keep in mind that these can either be countries which fully ceased to exist, being annexed by some others, or countries which evolved and changed into different countries which we know today. So let's get started. First, probably one of my favorite countries in history, Prussia. Prussia originated from a duchy in the region of Prussia, established as the result of the secularization of the Teutonic Order in 1525, so its predecessor was the Teutonic Order. It was originally located in what at the time was Eastern Germany, taking up parts of Poland and reaching into Lithuania. They were masters of military and were able to expand their size and power through a well-organized and effective army. They moved their capital from Königsberg to Berlin in 1701 as their grasp over Germany grew. In 1871, Prussia and the other German states under its influence united to form the German Empire. So effectively, Prussia is the predecessor to modern Germany. The name Prussia comes from the Old Prussians in the 13th century, a native people to the Baltic region, which occupied that same area. The Teutonic Order conquered the region and eventually established their own state, which in time transformed itself into Prussia, the North German Confederation, the German Empire, and then Germany. But effectively, Prussian power ended in 1918. With the German Revolution, which ended all German monarchies and created the Weimar Republic. Today, its territory is part of Poland, Lithuania, and Russia. Next, we move to Basutoland in Africa. It's located inside South Africa and is currently known as Lesotho. Basutoland was originally a British colony, established in 1884. It was created as a separate colony because the Cape Town administration was continuously unable to control the territory, for some reason I couldn't find. The evolution of its autonomy is somewhat confusing, but throughout some troubles it was eventually annexed into the Cape Colony. After discontent by the locals and the inability of the colony to rule the region, they were granted autonomy as their own British Empire colony. Eventually, in 1966, they got their independence from the British and became the Kingdom of Lesotho, which they remain until today. The name Lesotho roughly translates to literally the land of the people who speak Lesotho. Back to Europe and also back to Germany, the free city of Bremen. Now, technically, this one still exists. It has evolved into the current German state of Bremen, the smallest and least populous of all 16 German states. The history of Bremen as a free city goes back to the Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire had a status of free imperial cities, which were locations that were autonomous and not directly subordinate to a territorial prince, but still part of the empire. Bremen was one of these since 1186. After the Holy Roman Empire came to an end, the city remained free and independent as a part of the Hanseatic League, which was a commercial and defensive confederation of merchant guilds and market towns in northwest and central Europe. It was temporarily annexed by the First French Empire, but soon regained its autonomy in 1813. During the Vienna Congress of 1815, its independence was confirmed by European leaders, and after that, it became one of the 39 sovereign states of the German Confederation. It bought part of Hanover's land, joined the North German Confederation, the German Empire, and remains as a part of Germany until today. Moving to the east, we have the Avar Khanate. Now, a Khanate is ruled by a Khan and is essentially the equivalent of a kingdom, except maybe with more tribal characteristics. The Avar Khanate, also known as Kundia, was a Muslim state which controlled parts of Dagestan in the Caucasus region. It existed for a pretty long time, between the 13th and the 19th century. Now, roughly around the time of their establishment, the Golden Horde, descendants from the Mongols, were in control of the region, and by the 14th century, the Avar Khanate was unable to maintain their independence from the Mongols. Its existence was always pretty loose, if you will. It simultaneously granted autonomy to many of its mountainous communities and requested aid from the Russian Tsar against strong enemies from the south and east. They adopted Islam in the 17th century because of Turkish Ottoman influence. Their peak as a country was from 1775 to 1801, during the reign of Umar Khan, who was able to expand its territory and power in the Caucasus region. However, after the death of Umar Khan, the Khanate voluntarily submitted to Russian rule. The Russians weren't very nice, leading to the people revolting, and the Russian Empire then abolished the Khanate, and made it into a district of their empire. Back to Africa, Abyssinia. This is another one which still technically exists. Abyssinia is the name given to the Ethiopian Empire. It occupies the current countries of Ethiopia and Eritrea, lasting for a very long period of time, from 1270 with the establishment of the Solomonic dynasty until 1974, when the same dynasty was overthrown. It was the only African country, along with the region of Liberia, which remained independent after the European scramble for Africa. They defeated the Italians in the First Italo-Ethiopian War, maintaining their autonomy. The Italians got their way the second time and established a colony for about 5 years. However, after the end of World War II, Abyssinia, now just Ethiopia, regained their independence as they are today. A fun fact is that in 1974, Ethiopia was one of only 3 countries to still use the title of emperor for their head of state, along with Iran and Japan. Returning to Europe and to effectively another free city, Danzig. It was a semi-autonomous city-state that existed between 1920 and 1939. Consisting of the Baltic port of Danzig. Its creation was in accordance with the terms of Article 100 of the 1919 Treaty of Versailles after World War I. The free city was under League of Nations protection and put into a binding customs union with Poland, although not being a part of it, and despite most of its population being German, about 98%. It didn't last very long because in 1939, Germany invaded Poland, starting World War II, and abolished the free city and incorporated it into the occupied territory. Just a little further north, the Cuban's People Republic. Not to be confused with Cuba in the Caribbean. This one is kind of colder, and it's also a weird one. It only lasted for 2 years, from 1918 to 1920. It was an anti-Bolshevik state during the Russian Civil War, comprising the territory of the modern-day Cuban region in Russia. The republic was proclaimed by the Cuban Rada on the 28th of January of 1918, and it declared its independence on the 16th of February. It included all territory of the former Cuban Oblast of the Russian Empire. During its brief independence, it tried to unite with the Ukrainian's People Republic, but Ukraine was also occupied by Soviet forces, and at that moment, the Cuban's People Republic was destroyed and reincorporated into Russia. Next, in North Africa, the Kingdom of Tlemcen. Tlemcen is currently a city/region of Algeria, and in fact it was in the northwest portion of what is now Algeria that independent Tlemcen existed. The Tlemcen Kingdom was established after the demise of a Moroccan caliphate in 1236, and later fell under Ottoman rule in 1554. It was ruled by sultans of the Zayyanid dynasty, which made it sometimes also be mentioned as the Zayyanid Kingdom. It was sort of stuck between enemies, being commonly at war with Morocco to their west and Aragon in the north, in the Iberian Peninsula. But it wasn't the west or the north that triggered its downfall. It was its attempted expansion into the east, into the region of Tunis. The expansion failed, and Tlemcen fell into disgrace, being intermittently a vassal of Tunis, known as Ifriqiya, Aragon, and Morocco. That mixed in with further wars and even a crusade to its territory, led to its demise and being conquered by the Ottomans in 1554. It quickly lost its former importance, becoming a small town in the empire. There's also another African country which doesn't exist anymore, Zanzibar. Today, Zanzibar is a semi-autonomous region of Tanzania, but at one point it was an independent state. Portuguese explorers arrived in Zanzibar in 1498, and at the time the territory was ruled by small villages along the coast. The relation with the Portuguese was usually hostile, so when the Sultanate of Oman offered its influence in 1698, the Zanzibar towns accepted it, preferring their rule to that of the Portuguese. Eventually, Oman fully controlled the territory, with the Sultan even moving its capital to the region in 1832. When this Sultan died, his two sons fought over the succession. They divided the Sultanate, one keeping Oman and one keeping Zanzibar. And so, the Sultanate of Zanzibar existed from 1856 to 1890. After that, English rule expanded into the region, making it its protectorate. In 1963, the protectorate was abolished, and Zanzibar became a constitutional monarchy under the Sultan, but only very briefly because after a revolution in 1964, it united with what would then become Tanzania. And finally, the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. This is the unofficial name given to the Kingdom of the Netherlands as it existed between 1815 and 1839. It was created after the Napoleonic Wars through the fusion of territories that had belonged to the former Dutch Republic, Austrian Netherlands, and the Bishopric of Liège. However, in 1830, the Belgians revolted and became independent, even though the Dutch only recognized it in 1839. Also in 1839, the Treaty of London was signed, guaranteeing the independence and neutrality of Belgium and bringing the United Kingdom of the Netherlands to an end. And those were 10 more countries which no longer exist. If you're a fan of my channel, then you're likely to be like me in the sense that you're interested in learning about new things, whether it's history or other topics. For this video, I partnered with Brilliant.org, which is an incredible place to learn, offering you daily challenges in math, science, and computer science, with interactive courses in topics that go from basic algebra to quantum computing. I've always struggled with advanced math. Who hasn't? And their courses really help me look at things in a much simpler way, allowing me to finally understand it. The way that Brilliant presents these courses and problems in a straightforward way and constantly engaging with you as you work allows you to understand the concepts in a much simpler way, but still at a deep level, therefore also improving the way that you think. Go to brilliant.org/general knowledge or click the link in the description and sign up for free. And also, as a bonus for you guys for watching my channel, the first 200 people that go to that link will get 20% off the annual premium subscription, so you can view all the daily challenges in the archives and unlock dozens of problem-solving courses. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any opinions or additional information, leave a comment below. Remember to subscribe and check out Brilliant.org. I will see you in the next video.